$23 billion vanished overnight. Hotels emptied, airlines rerouted, and Canadian snowbirds? Gone. But this wasn't a natural disaster. It was a political decision, and it's destroying Georgia's economy faster than anyone imagined. Georgia was once the tourism jewel of the American South, a state blessed with warm weather, a sparkling coastline, and resort islands like Tybee and St. Simons that made it a winter haven for millions, especially Canadians and Europeans escaping the cold. Atlanta stood tall as a convention powerhouse, drawing over 1 million international visitors each year. Foreign students poured billions into universities, while festivals, beaches, and historic towns brought in families, retirees, and global explorers in waves. Tourism wasn't just an industry here. It was a lifeline, $74 billion a year, supporting nearly 500,000 jobs across hospitality, retail, transport, and entertainment. But all of that collapsed, fast. It didn't happen because of war, a hurricane, or a global recession. It happened because of one video, one incident, one political choice. And what happened next should terrify every state in America that thinks it's too big to fail. Before 2025, Georgia's tourism sector was booming. Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport was one of the busiest in the world, acting as a major hub for global traffic. Tourists flew in from Munich, Toronto, London, and Tokyo to enjoy world-class events, from international business conventions to music festivals and sporting events. Resort towns like Savannah, Jekyll Island, and Sea Island thrived year-round. Canadians, in particular, made up a massive share of Georgia's winter tourism. With over 20 million visits to the U.S. annually, Canadians were America's largest inbound market, even bigger than the UK or Japan. For Georgia, they were not just tourists. They were long-term residents of sorts, buying vacation homes, supporting local groceries, eating at neighborhood restaurants, and tipping generously. Universities across the state also reaped the benefits, with foreign students bringing in billions of dollars that helped fund housing developments, local businesses, and educational programs. For a while, it seemed unstoppable. But then came June 3, 2025. At Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, 2 German musicians were pulled off their departing flight. No explanation, no crime, just a random stop, an interrogation that lasted 4 hours, and a forced deportation. And it was all caught on video. Within 48 hours, the clip had racked up over 18 million views. The backlash was instant. International headlines called it state-sanctioned hostility. Travel forums exploded. Social media is flooded with personal stories of harassment and racial profiling. A week later, Germany issued a formal travel advisory, warning its citizens to avoid Georgia. And just like that, the dominoes fell. Within a month, Atlanta lost $620 million worth of events. Tour operators reported 70% cancellations. Lufthansa suspended its Munich-Atlanta route. Air Canada cut winter flights in half. Delta slashed 3 European routes and shifted them to cities like Toronto and Orlando, places seen as more welcoming. And here's where things took a turn for the worse. Instead of apologizing or offering clarity, Georgia's politicians doubled down. Officials went on TV and called the backlash foreign interference. The governor's office declared the incident an act of sovereignty. And in the weeks that followed, the legislature passed new laws: bans on foreign land ownership, device checks for long-term visitors, tighter restrictions on short-term rentals, all under the banner of protecting Georgia. But to the rest of the world, the message was loud and clear. You're not welcome here. The global reaction didn't involve protests or angry letters. It was quieter, but far more devastating. Tourists simply stopped coming. International bookings plunged. Hotel occupancy rates across Atlanta dropped 37% year over year, according to the Q3 2025 hospitality report. The Georgia World Congress Center reported $1.2 billion in lost events in a single quarter. In Savannah, summer reservations for restaurants hit zero. Tour buses were left parked and empty. Drivers laid off. Even the state's coastal jewels weren't spared. Resorts on Tybee and St. Simons, once havens for Canadian retirees, reported bookings cut in half. Foreign homeowners began selling their vacation properties, slashing local property tax revenues and destabilizing coastal economies. Meanwhile, Georgia's neighbors smelled opportunity. Nashville quickly scooped up 3 major medical conferences and a European tech summit. Charleston doubled its international marketing budget and landed a cruise line that once docked in Savannah. Orlando, with its friendly visa policies and theme park empire, became the preferred destination for both families and corporations. Tourism experts summed it up bluntly. Travelers don't protest, they just book somewhere else. And Georgia? It was left in silence. Empty hotel rooms, shuttered restaurants, and tens of thousands of workers, jobless. By the end of summer 2025, what locals started calling a slow season had evolved into a full-blown collapse. And yet, there were no protests, no angry mobs, just silence. That's what made it terrifying. Canadians, who once made up a massive percentage of Georgia's winter visitors, simply disappeared. Many sold their vacation homes. Others canceled long-standing reservations. Some quietly advised their friends and family to avoid the state. And once that quiet consensus took hold, the shift was unstoppable. Georgia's coastlines, usually vibrant with tourists, were left eerily still. Local grocery stores that relied on snowbird traffic shut their doors. Small restaurants, beach shops, and boutique hotels started laying off staff or closing altogether. Behind closed doors, business owners called it the silent exodus. In a matter of months, 92,000 jobs vanished, according to Georgia's Department of Labor. From hotel maids to tour bus drivers, restaurant waiters to museum curators, lives were upended without warning. The worst part? These weren't just tourism jobs. They were someone's rent, someone's college tuition, someone's ability to retire. When the state sent the message that international tourists didn't matter, the world responded by walking away. And here's the kicker, it wasn't just Georgia. While Georgia was the epicenter, the ripples stretched nationwide. After Donald Trump's re-election, Canadian tourism to the U.S. fell off a cliff. Tariffs and political rhetoric hardened the perception that Americans had become hostile, especially toward allies. Canada, once the U.S.'s most reliable tourism partner, began to pull back. And the numbers don't lie. A Longwoods International survey found that 3 out of 5 Canadians said U.S. politics made them less likely to visit. The reasons? Visa delays, airport hassles, cultural tension, and above all, the feeling that they weren't wanted. Add to that a 22-year low for the Canadian dollar, and a $1,000 Georgia vacation started to feel absurd, especially when that same money could buy a trip to Spain with tapas, sunshine, and free healthcare. Meanwhile, Trump's new tariff policies pushed prices up across the board, not just for imports, but for domestic travel costs as well. Airlines cut routes, hotels raised prices, and the entire U.S. tourism sector started to feel the squeeze. According to the International Trade Administration, visitor numbers from Western Europe dropped 17% in March 2025 alone. Countries like Ireland, Germany, and Norway saw declines of more than 20%. Instead of rebounding after COVID, America's tourism economy was collapsing by choice. Tourism Economics, a leading industry forecaster, had initially predicted +9% growth in international visitors for 2025. But by mid-year, that forecast was flipped to 9.4%. That's not just a bad quarter. That's tens of billions in vanished revenue. The U.S. Travel Association now warns that total losses for 2025 could hit $72 billion. That's not just hotels and plane tickets. It's lost taxes, closed businesses, and unemployed workers in every state. So what happened? Why did the most welcoming country in the world suddenly become a cautionary tale? The answer isn't complicated. When you politicize hospitality, you weaponize perception. And when perception turns sour, tourists don't fight back. They simply leave. Georgia's politicians believed that visitors needed their airports, beaches, and charm more than Georgia needed their money. They were wrong. What happened to Georgia isn't a fluke. It's a warning. A $74 billion industry was lost because of pride, short-sightedness, and a refusal to recognize the power of perception in a global economy. And now, that lesson is playing out in real time. Not just in Georgia, but in every red state banking on tourists while passing policies that scream, "Stay away." It's not too late to course correct. But here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud. Once you make people feel unwelcome, it takes years to earn them back. And in an economy that moves this fast, most businesses and workers can't afford to wait. If you found this video eye-opening, hit that like button so more people see it. And subscribe if you want to see how politics is reshaping the economy in ways most people aren't paying attention to. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.